Shantam Padmasanastham Shashidhara Mukutam Panchabhaktram Trinetram Shulam Vajram Cha Khadgam Parshum Abhayadam Dakshinange Vahantam Naga Pasham Cha Ghanta Dhamaruka Sahitam Ankusham Vam Bhage Nana Alankar Deeptam Sphatikamani Nibham Parvatisham Namami. Om Namah Shivaya. On this auspicious occasion of Maha Shivratri, I want to share a small message with you about Shivratri. I'm going to talk to you about the worship of God and whether we can actually date the worship of God. Can we find the original date on which the worship of God began? I'm going to talk about who is Shiva, what is the Shiva Ling, and then I'm going to talk about the significance of Shivratri and the merits of the offerings that we make on Shivratri. So let me begin by quoting Ramcharitmanas, in which Goswami Tulsidas tells us, Hari Ananta, Hari Katha Ananta. So, Sant Tulsidas is reminding us that God is without beginning and his stories, therefore, are unending. So, Hari Ananta, God is unending. He is without a beginning. Therefore, it will be very difficult to say that worship of God started at a particular time. Or for that matter, for us to say that the worship of Lord Shiva started on this particular date. Since we know that God is unending, is without beginning, we cannot then say that people started worshipping Lord Shiva on this particular date. In fact, Adi Shankaracharya, who was one of the champions of Hinduism, he lived thousands of years ago, and he made a declaration in connection with Lord Shiva. He said, in the Vedas is described the worship of Shiva, the incarnation of Supreme Brahman. So you can see that the worship of Shiva, or the concept of Shiva, actually goes back to the Vedas. So the question then is, who is Lord Shiva? One possible answer to this question is that Lord Shiva is actually in charge of dissolution. So it means that everything merges into him. So if we see Brahma as the creator and Lord Vishnu as the preserver, then everything that is created and that is preserved eventually merges into Lord Shiva. So in the end, everything goes back to Lord Shiva. So therefore, he is regarded as the Lord of dissolution. But Shiva is also called Ardhanarishwar. Ardhanari Ishwar means that he's half man, half woman. In biology, we are told that there are both male and female hormones in each organism. Right, according to research in psychology, every man has a woman in his mind, and each woman has a man inherent in her constitution. So in other words, nature has made every individual an Ardhanarishwar. In fact, we can all consider ourselves to be Brahma or Prajapati, creators. And we create a daughter called energy, and we create this energy, which is our daughter, for ourselves. And it is this energy that represents the principles of intelligence. So the female energy, or the principle of intelligence, is the element that makes up the Ardhanarishwar form of each individual. But Shiva is also in the linga. It says on the 14th day in the dark fortnight of Phalgun month, that is on Mahashivratri, Lord Shiva manifested himself in the form of a lingam for the first time. This ling was called an Agni Linga, an endless manifestation of light, of which its beginning or end could not be found. So, what then is this Shivaling? Because on Shivratri, it says that Shiva manifests himself in the form of a linga. Now, we must not be modest about the meaning of the word linga. The linga and the yoni are symbols of the physical body. And it's actually a symbol of the physical act by which all living creatures are created by nature. There can be no higher and purer symbol of the universal parents. And we know that parents are indispensable for producing life. So we must not be afraid to say that linga has been interpreted as a phallic emblem. Because in ancient times, people understood the true glory of the phallic emblem in its purity. See, the ultimate cannot be perceived through direct perception. And Hindu scriptures rely on inference or on comparison for expressing reality. So the Shivling is one such indirect way of communicating reality. How do we make people understand what reality is? The Shivling is one way in which we can understand what reality is. So the linga is a symbol of God in all his attributes. It is shaped like an ellipse with 2 points of focus, which suggests Shiva Shakti. So the ling is generally fixed so that one half is embedded in the ground and is not visible, and it represents the manifest or created world, which we call Shakti. So therefore the linga is a representation of two facets of reality, the unmanifest and the manifest. It also suggests that the male and female exist and strive towards God in harmony rather than in opposition. So Lord Shiva is a divine figure of reconciliation of all the opposites. He brings all the opposites together. In some figures depicting the full figure of Shiva, the male and female principles are united. And I mentioned that earlier, the Ardhanarishwar. So similarly, in the Ling and the Yoni fusion, we see the totality of Shiva's nature, the whole of created existence. We see the sky, the earth, the river, and the sea. These are natural symbols of the Supreme God, found throughout the whole of the created order. So then we must not allow ourselves to be misguided as to what Lord Shiva is and what the Shivling represents. Now, a few points about Shivaratri. Shivaratri is celebrated at night. Most of our festivals are done during daylight hours. Shivaratri or Mahashivratri is celebrated at night. It's referred to as a Pradosh Puja. Pradosh means that it is an evening celebration. So there's an explanation behind this as well. See, the day after Mahashivratri is Amavasya. And Amavasya means there'll be no moon in the sky. And no moon in the sky means that it will be the darkest night. And when it is the darkest night, when there's absolute darkness, that's when the negative qualities come into the foreground. That's when negative qualities are on the increase. In Sanskrit, we refer to that, or the Bhagavad Gita language, we refer to that as tamasic qualities. Tamasic qualities strive best in the darkest time. In fact, most thieves, most people who want to do illegal acts will choose the night to do it. So Amavasya is the darkest night, and there's a strong possibility that we may be influenced by the negative or the tamasic qualities. So we believe in Hinduism that prevention is better than cure. So rather than waiting for Amavasya and for the negative qualities to overtake us, the night before on Maha Shivratri, we pray to Lord Shiva, who is the one who will guide us to control those tamasic qualities. So Shiva helps us to control and tranquilize the tamasic qualities. So the night before Mahashivratri, we spend the entire night in prayer, fasting, so that we can get under control the tamasic or the negative qualities, which, as I said, are at its most predominant on the Amavasya night. So this is why we are asked to celebrate or to observe Shivratri at night. But remember also that Lord Krishna has told us in the Bhagavad Gita that when the whole world is asleep, the one who has brought his or her senses under control is awake. So we remain awake and we fast. We fast on Shivratri because no sleep overtakes one who fasts and brings one's senses under control. So the fasting and the night vigil are all designed to help us to control the tamasic or the negative qualities. Now let me say a little bit about Shivratri Puja. Now, what kind of puja should we be doing? What is the prescribed puja on Shivratri? One of the pointers, one of the guidelines given to us on what we should be doing on Shivratri in terms of puja is given to us in the Shiv Chalisa. It says, Pandit Trayodashi ko lave, Dhyana Purvak homa karave, Trayodashi vrat kare hamesha, Tanana hitake rahe kalesha. So on Trayodashi, we are encouraged to invite a learned person, one who is versed in the mantras and puja padatis and puja vidhis, to guide us to do our puja to Lord Shiva in a devoted way. We are asked to make offerings with devotion. And Shiv Chalisa says that those who fast and pray to Lord Shiva are always healthy and happy. Of course, those of us who are in a position to perform our own pujas, we can do that on our own. Those that are not will engage the services of a priest or a pandit. But it is prescribed in the Shiv Chalisa that we should do puja to Lord Shiva. And of course, there are special prescriptions for how the entire night should be observed. I'm not going to go into the details of that now. You are going to experience that this evening. There are certain offerings that we make to Lord Shiva, which I want to touch on. Milk, sour milk, ghee, honey, sugar, and water. Because all these things help in the purification of our soul. By offering these ingredients, we are in turn asking for a purification of our own souls. Milk is a blessing for purity and piousness. Sour milk is a blessing for prosperity and progeny. Honey is a blessing for sweet speech. Ghee is a blessing for victory. Sugar is a blessing for happiness. And water is a blessing for purity. So each of these dravyas, we refer to them as dravya, is used in the Abhishek because it blesses us with a unique quality. So we can get purity, piousness, prosperity by offering each of these dravyas to Lord Shiva. Again, Shiv Chalisa says, Dhup Deep Nevedhya Charave, Shankar Sammukh Path Sunave, Janma Janma Ke Pap Nasave, Antavas Shivapur Me Pave. So, whosoever offers incense, agarbatti, prasad, and performs arti to Lord Shiva with love and devotion, enjoys material happiness and spiritual bliss in this world, and hereafter ascends to the abode of Lord Shiva. Now, what is the purpose in life? What is our goal in life? What is it that we are striving for? We all want to get closer to God. We all desire God's grace. And on Shivratri, we are enlisting the help and the assistance of Lord Shiva to achieve this. Shiva is out and about on the night of Shivratri. More than any other night, he is ready to meet us on Shivratri night. Therefore, it is appropriate to spend the Shivratri night in fasting, prayer, singing of kirtans and bhajans, and discourses. Om Namah Shivaya.